Hello, everyone, and welcome back. It is early in the morning, and why am I up so early? Well, we are heading to LA for Frieze LA, but also to see a lot of great gallery shows. Unfortunately, it is not your stereotypical California weather. It's very cloudy and very rainy, but that will not stop us. Our first stop is the hotel, which is Soho Warehouse in downtown LA. I thought it's really cute, very spacious, very, very nice. We're now going to make our way over to Frieze LA, which is at the Santa Monica airport. I've already actually included a video of all my highlights, my favorites on this channel, which I will make sure to leave linked above and below if you want to go check that out. We're going to make a quick stop into the Jill Sandra store in Beverly Hills to celebrate the new store opening. It's a really beautiful space, so if you are in LA and in Beverly Hills, I highly recommend checking it out. I'm a big fan of the brand. Really took a lot of my self-control to not pick up any goodies, but we were on a mission, mostly to get to Jon and Vinny's, which is my favorite, well, one of my favorite places to eat when I'm in LA. Their pizza's amazing, of course, but honestly, it's the spicy fusilli that's my absolute favorite. So highly recommend getting that. It's Saturday morning, and this is our only day to see art galleries in LA. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous trying to fit it all in, but this is the outfit of the day. This is a leather dress from Co, and it is raining very badly. So not an ideal start to the day, but we're gonna start with breakfast at Urth Caffé in West Hollywood. I love Urth Caffé. Their lattes are massive and incredible, and this acai bowl was also great, but just look at this weather. Our first gallery is going to be Galerie Perrotin's new space in LA. It's got the classic LA warehouse architecture where it has this really rounded, beautiful wooden ceiling. You will see this over and over again today. And this is an exhibit by Izumi Kato, who's a Japanese artist who's based in Tokyo and known for creating these figurative paintings and sculptures. I feel like Kato's work is all about contrasts, whether it be the material he uses, the scale he plays with, or the figure that he's depicting. Here we have a great example of how he plays with scale. So some of his sculptures are so small they can fit in the palm of your hand, while this one goes all the way up to the ceiling, and it measures in at 17 feet tall, so very large scale. Another way he plays with contrasts is through the materials that he uses. So for his sculptures, for example, he mixes natural materials like wood and stone with manufactured ones like plastic and vinyl. And the final way he plays with contrasts is through the figures that he depicts. So his figures walk a fine line between being human and spirit, which I think gives them a relatable quality that you can connect to. You can see these little hints and references to the spirit world in Kato's work because of where he grew up in Japan. So he grew up in a town that was supposedly home to a Shinto god. So there are many Shinto shrines around. And Shinto is centered around the belief in kami, which are spirits that inhabit various natural elements, objects, and phenomena. At the beginning of the show, there's another reference that Kato has made to his childhood, and it's specifically a tribute to his memories of toy models. And he even has created model kits where you can create your own plastic miniature versions of his stone sculptures, which I think is really cute. So the rain has let up a little bit, and we have made our way over to David Kordansky Gallery to see an exhibit by Sam Gilliam titled Sam Gilliam, The Last 5 Years, which, like the title suggests, it features paintings created by Gilliam between 2018 and 2022, which were the last 5 years of his life before he died in 2022. This room contains Gilliam's Tondo paintings that highlight Gilliam's interest in the sculptural dimension of painting. And of course, he made them with paint, but he also used a variety of byproducts from the studio process, such as sawdust, metal, wood scraps, all to really give them a more three-dimensional sculptural effect. This is part of Gilliam's Drape series, and David Kordansky had a really sweet statement about Gilliam as well as the Drape paintings, and he said, quote, "For Sam, there was always more to do in art and in life, and he had no qualms about his faith in art as a human endeavor that changes the world. The Drape paintings in this exhibition, for instance, symbolize radical, inclusive, and challenging ways of being together. They are amongst the most moving and electric paintings he ever made." The works in this room are also part of the Drape series, and they're made of Cerex nylon that's folded, bunched, dipped in acrylic pigments, and then hung from various points on the ceiling. As a whole, they're meant to create an immersive environment that changes as we move through it as a viewer. This is the final part of the exhibit, and these are watercolors from Gilliam. They have a very similar look and feel to the Drape paintings that we just saw, but instead of fabric, it is a water-based pigment on folded paper. To create them, he didn't use a brush, which is the traditional choice, of course, but instead he used his hands to give them a more organic feel that surrenders to the power of the materials and again celebrates the relationships between the artist and the materials. We've now popped right around the corner to Pace Gallery to see an exhibit of paintings by the Brazilian artist Marina Perez Simão. And like with all artists that create abstract works, Perez Simão's goal is to depict the emotions associated with a subject versus the actual subject in realistic detail. I find her abstract style to have a strong surrealist quality to it, very Georgia O'Keeffe-esque in my opinion. And I think this has a really beautiful effect, especially when applied to landscapes like she's done here. The show is titled Solanaceae after the nightshades family of plants, which has significance in a few different ways. So not only is it referencing a new dark color palette that the artist has introduced with these works, but it's also referencing how, quote, light can function as a supernatural force in our experience of nature. We're now heading over to West Hollywood, starting at Hauser and Wirth to see an exhibit of works by Pat Steir. The show is titled Painted Rain, and this is actually Pat Steir's first solo show in LA in almost 30 years. And it's even more special because the works in it are inspired by her, quote, recollections of her time in Los Angeles, in particular, the ocean and sky she experienced while teaching at the California Institute of the Arts in the 1970s. That's why you see so many beautiful blue tones in a lot of the works. My favorites were like these, which feature this very deep, dark blue with minimal line work. When talking about the show, Steir says, quote, the first time I went to LA to teach at CalArts in the 1970s, I remember thinking that the city had endless roads, many, many cars, no place to walk, and shockingly bright sunlight. I saw blue skies and ocean. I was used to New York light, to seeing all colors muted by a gray screen. CalArts gave me a wonderful studio to use. It had a large window the size of a wall, and the light was so bright and saturated I couldn't see the paint colors I mixed. So to counter this light, I made black paintings with rainbows and color scales outside the picture field. That was 50 years ago. And when I think of LA now, I think of the sky and the ocean even more than the light. And that's the origin of my latest work. We're now going to head around the corner to M&B Gallery, which I've never actually had the pleasure of visiting before, but it's very cute and it's very close to Hauser, so you can visit both very easily. I highly recommend. This is an exhibit of works by Clare, who's an American artist based in New York. And the shapes and the colors that you see in the paintings are inspired by antique embroidery samplers. Although I think there's a really fun messiness to them that makes you feel like she kind of took her references, put them in a bag, shook them up, and then dumped them out. I also like how many layers there are to her work. So if you look at them long enough, you'll start to find more and more things that come to light through the layers, little things that you didn't notice before. Our next stop is Karma Gallery. This is their incredible West Hollywood location. I love their New York spaces, but they just don't quite have the impressive scale of this one. This is an exhibit of new works by the West African-born, New York-based artist Ouattara Watts. And Watts is known for creating paintings that are kind of cultural collages. And what I mean by that is he references various symbols and relics from around the world in his works, combining them in this really visually pleasing way as a way of exploring the human condition and how we all exist together. To create these visual effects, Watts mixes traditional materials like acrylic and gouache paint with non-traditional materials like paper mache, leaves, textiles, and more. So while we're waiting for the rain to stop, I thought we'd check out Karma's bookstore. I loved this Jonas Wood Karma hat so much that I did end up buying it. I also really liked it in the matte black, but I did get the white. They actually had a lot of really good pieces of Jonas Wood merch from the show that he did with them, where he featured 20 years of drawings. I'll leave that linked above and below if you want to check that out. I also thought this sticker was very clever. We're now going to head over to Nino Mier Gallery to see an exhibit of abstract paintings by the Spanish artist Secundino Hernández. So the show is split into two series, starting with these horizontal stitched canvases. And don't worry, we'll go into greater detail about those in a bit. And then you have these abstract paintings. So the works in this room feature a high contrast color palette, utilizing black to make his signature gestural marks pop. And it's rare to see artists use so much black, so I always find it exciting when they do. But now that I say that, the next show we're going to see actually features another artist that heavily uses black in a similar way by creating this really exciting contrast with bright colors. So, little spoiler there. Another artist that uses this technique is Reggie Burroughs Hodges, whose work I'm also a fan of. To create the works in his second series that we see here, Hernández stitches together discarded materials to form these canvases. And I think it's always beautiful when someone can take something that's considered to be waste or junk and turn it into something special. The works are hung up in groups of two, back to back, so you kind of have to wander up and down to really appreciate each of the works. And I'm not sure if it picks up on camera, but one of my favorite things is how you can really see the lights of the gallery shining through the fabric, so you could appreciate the craftsmanship as well as just the delicacy of the canvas. In fact, if you look closely, you could see them swinging ever so slightly as we walk by, just because they're that lightweight and delicate. So I may have saved the best show for last, although this is not the last show that we will see today, just the last show for this video before we head back towards downtown. This is an exhibit of works by Summer Wheat at the newly rebranded Nazarian Curcio, formerly known as Shulamit Nazarian. So Summer Wheat is a Brooklyn-based artist who, as I hinted earlier, heavily utilizes black in her works. And it gives this really beautiful contrast with her almost neon color palette. And another really unique thing about Wheat's works are how she creates them. So for the longest time, I actually thought they were beaded because they have this really incredible texture that truly looks like beads. But what she's done is actually painted through screens. So it's paint pushing through the screen that gives it this beaded effect, and it's really beautiful. The exhibit is titled Fertile Ground, and it depicts a, quote, utopian world where women are in control, having formed a community of independent caretakers that tend to the land and the creatures that populate it, receiving nourishment in turn. Many of her new paintings feature women that have water spewing from their mouth and their eyes and their ears onto the ground. And it's because they're meant to be vessels that have this life-sustaining material, and they're offering their own bodies in an act of devotion to nourish the land. Wheat says, quote, "These figures surrender as water springs from their bodies. They embrace the downpour. They seek to cultivate new relationships and to offer an essential life-giving force. They generously give back to the land that provides for them." She's really capturing the essence of women in general who create life and who do sacrifice their bodies and so much more in an effort to advance humanity. I also love how she's included some pebble sculptures in this show. I've seen her mosaic work in the past, so it's nice to see it here alongside the paintings. And I also love the philosophy around the sculptures. So conceptually, they're meant to represent the oldest form of storytelling. And then practically, they are meant to serve as a source of grounding for the show, where you can actually sit on them while you enjoy the works. And that's all for this video. We're going to head back down to downtown LA, so please make sure you're subscribed just because you don't want to miss out on the next bit of my LA adventure. There's a lot more to see, and I will see you all in my next video.